This is Lagoon Radio.
All right, good morning. It's a beautiful Monday, and beautiful good morning to you. It's another beautiful day in the year 2022, the month of January. And congratulations, today happens to be the last day in the month of January that has refused to come to an end. Thanks to God, here we are. All right, how's your weekend? Mine was splendid, and trust yours went well too. It's another edition of the newspaper review here on Lagoon Radio, your number one online gospel radio station, powered by the Diocese of Lagos Anglican Communion. Don't forget to like and follow us on all our social media platforms. On Facebook is at Lagoonradio.Ng, on Instagram and Twitter is at Lagoonradio.Ng. You can also download the Lagoon Radio app on Google Play Store and App Store, irrespective of the device that you use. My name is Taiwo Adiola Shabiolebe, and with me in the studio is the beautiful, the gorgeous, the elegant, the wonderful, eloquent, quintessential personality.
It's okay.
All
Thank
for
you.
you this morning. Simidili Olabisi Oke. Good morning, and how was your weekend?
Good morning, everybody. Stop slicing onions. Good morning,
I
good
just wish I
morning.
could go on and on and
Aww.
on and on.
Thank
I could say
you.
the same for myself, but don't worry. Today is a day, and I
Aww.
give it to her.
I'm blushing.
There is no woman crush Wednesday. It's just Monday, but you know,
Oh,
the
woman
spirit
crush
has led us
Monday.
to appreciate someone today. I'm sure you had a lovely weekend.
Thank you. I actually
So, you know,
did.
You
Thank
you don't do. I'll take the time for your matter with this. I don't blame you anyways. It comes once in, you know.
It's needed.
All right, no particular order. We have the New Telegraph. We have the Daily Times, the Blueprint newspaper, Leadership, National Economy, Nigerian Tribune, Daily Trust, This Day newspaper, Business Day, Business AM, This Nigeria, Nigerian Pilots, Name Insurance. Okay, Daily Champion, pardon, Daily Independent, Nigerian News Direct. We'll try as much as possible to cover all this newspaper. Well, in no particular order, I'm going to start with the New Telegraph. At the top of the paper, we have budget. Federal government spends 14.23 trillion naira on personnel in 5 years to go up 27% of total appropriation for 2022. The story is right there, and you can continue reading on the inside on page 3. Learn to accept criticism, rejection, says King Gama, tells our leaders, and cautions decrees against political forecasting. This you can get on page 2. There's negative perception of Nigeria by foreign media, says a Polish envoy, still on page 3 of the New Telegraph. Igbo president will settle IPOB's agitation, says Onwabunwa. And the writer to that says Kanu to Ohanese youth urged to adopt Justice Anya's proposals. This you can read on page 4. I'm sorry, it's quite tiny, so I'm trying as much as possible to get that. You can read on page 4. Mieti Hala's endorsement, Tinubu host lost out, says Middle Belt Forum. Fault cattle breeders attack on southern governors over grazing laws. Still on page 4, you get the story there. And the major story there says missing police arms threat to national security. 6th state of emergency on armed state periodic check. And the writer to that says implication is there's larger enemy army within which can destroy Nigeria if coordinated. This you can read up on page 2. Federal government's extension of fuel subsidy. Federal government's extension of fuel subsidy, huge blunder. CSG. It's a loss to government citizens. CSO's private sector. NLC ought to have pressed further to address on the underlying issues. This you can read on page 3. Electoral Act opposition threatens to override Buhari's veto if you find out the if on page 8 of the New Telegraph. Still on the paper, insecurity. More than 22 killed, 30 houses destroyed as terrorists sack southern Kaduna and Niger communities. And the writer to that says Joint Security Task Force loses 11 members, shuts down camps. Also, youth wears government. That's a question by the youth. You can read all of this on page 4. And at the very bottom, COVID-19 post-vaccination menstrual changes short-lived. Study had reviewed. You can find out more on page 6 of the New Telegraph newspaper.
All right, moving on to the Daily Times papers. Your comment on cancellation of Buhari's visit to Zamfara, shameful, disgraceful. Who said that? Presidency said that to PDP. You can get the full details on page 2 of the Daily Times papers, and boldly written on the front page of the Daily Times papers, peace will return to all terrorism affected communities, federal government assures. And the writers to that says urges Nigerians to continue to expect significant changes, improvement in nation's security architecture. That can also be seen on page 2 of the Daily Times papers. Resident doctors seek increase in health sector budget from 5% to 15%. Also on page 2 of the Daily Times papers. And moving on to politics, Akwa Ibom. Crisis brews in PDP over Governor Emmanuel's successor. That can be found on page 4 of the Daily Times papers. GAIM 5 promo Fidelity Bank splashes 10 million naira on lucky customers. You can see the full details on page 14 of the Daily Times papers. And I think we don't need to go and open account with Fidelity
All
Bank.
these things that we're just reading. There was one time First Bank did their own. Don't worry. I'll participate one day.
It's paining you, sorry. Okay.
I'm a customer.
First Bank of Fidelity.
First Bank last year December.
Oh wow! You didn't put your body inside. You didn't put your body into it. Put your body into it. Then lastly, on Daily Times papers, Serap sues Buhari. Others over missing 3.1 billion naira in finance ministry. You can get the full details on page 4 of the Daily Times papers.
All right, I'll be reading the Blueprint newspaper. On the paper, Nigerian tech market low on merger and acquisition, says a Flutterwave co-founder. You can find out on page 24. Still on page 24, CBN goes after loan defaulters in new operational guidelines. And on page 23, we have Anifa. We're committed to seeking justice, ex-MBA president. We're moving quickly to page 6. Presidency to PDP. Attack on Buhari over aborted Zamfara visit shameful. Assures president will return to accomplish his mission. Says opposition hanging onto lives to live. The story is on the front page there. Of course, you can read up on page 6. And moving on to page 21. 5 suspects arrested over killings, robbery in Osun communities. And the major story there says how gunmen raided and killed 25 in Zango, Kataf, Niger in fresh attacks. And the writer to that says, scores still missing, 40 houses razed. Bandits took advantage of troops withdrawal. El Rufai sad, condoles with victims' families. All of this you can read up on page 6 of the Blueprint newspaper. Still on the paper, Igbo B College has shown how visionary leaders can impact generation. Says on Shibaju, that's on page 8. You can find out our own Igbobi College. All right, 2022. I will challenge outcome of Ekiti APC primary in court. Says Bamidele. This is on page 8. Yes, Nimasa pays 37.6 billion naira into Federation account. Investigates 12 accidents in 2021. Still on page 24. And moving on to page 15 of the paper. Sanction leaders undermining National Convention. Lukman tells APC. And lastly, stakeholders at the Deloitte Roundtable commend federal government on implementation of economic plans. On page 24, you get the story there. And there's a picture, of course, on the front page.
Okay, I'll be taking the leadership paper. Why PMB didn't go to Zamfara by road, says presidency. Want to know the why? You can get the why on page 11 of the leadership papers. And on page 6, Oabunwa says Igbo presidency will settle Biafra agitation. And this is actually business. On page 7 of the leadership papers, Nigeria targets 141.250 billion naira from sugar tax on soft drinks and others. Then still on page 7, pressure mounts on APC to throw party chairmanship race open. And you can get it on page 7. Federal government states deplete excess crude account by $37 million despite oil prices above $40 benchmark in 2021. And the riders to that, only $35.368 million left. Government not saving excess crude sales. You can get all of that on page 4 of the leadership papers. And on page 4, 28 killed, scores abducted in Kaduna, Niger attacks. Moving to, okay, let me take this from page 4. Osinbajo tax traditional rulers on ethnic religious tolerance. And moving to page 9, 1.74 million malnourished children in Northeast, says UNICEF. I think that'll be all on the leadership papers.
All right, I'll jump to the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. Judiciary budget, NJC under pressure as lawmakers raise concern over alleged lack of transparency. That's on page 2. Alleged financial misappropriation. Ogun Assembly summons local government chairman and others. Still on page 5. All right, moving on to page 3. Aborted Zamfara tree. Presidency attacks PDP. Accuses it of mischief. You can read out on page 3. 19 killed. Houses burned in fresh attack in Kaduna and Niger communities. And the writer to it says that Niger government mobilizes air force against terrorists on a rampage in local governments. Dates you can find out on page 25. It's a must read. And boldly written on the front page, 2023. Power must shift to South Middle Belt Forum as Ohanaeze cautions Atiku. You can read up on page 26. Power shift. This 2023 election is becoming more and more interesting. Segun Oni accuses Fayose NWC of sellouts to APC, and the writer to it says you are on your own. We know those who moved in and out of APC. Fayose's aide had said. That's on page 26. AKT, I won't accept Oyebanji as APC governor candidate. We will seek redress in court, says Bamidele on page 26 as well. You read up.
I can imagine that redress. Like, seriously, you're going to be listening to a lot of English, a lot of grammar. I'm proudly Ekiti born.
And of course, there's a picture on the front page. The pictures are two different pictures with two different captions. You find out when you get the paper. That'll be all on the Nigerian Tribune newspaper.
All right, thank you, Shab. I'll be taking the Daily Trust paper. CBN reduces ATM interbank transfer charges. In fact, we need to. Like, I actually saw this over the weekend, and I'm like, wow. I was wowed, as in wow. But really, seriously,
so I hope clap for them.
Please, let's clap for CBN. Thank you. And really, seriously, I hope this actually continues. I hope this continues, really, like maybe after the election in 2023, it still continues that way. You still need to reduce it, for the sake of the masses and all of that. So you can get the full details on the inside of the Daily Trust papers. Ekiti governorship, anger over outcomes of APC PDP primaries. You can get that on page 16 of the Daily Trust papers as 281 Nigerian crypto accounts restricted over security concern. That's also on the inside of the Daily Trust papers. Dozen killed in Niger, Katsina, Kaduna attacks as terrorists overrun Niger security base, kill 11 operative. And bandits sack Zamfara village despite 7 million naira levy. Attacks giving us sleepless nights, says Katsina Emir. It says that to Shimbajo, and the vice president promises change soon. Can get all the details on page 4 of the Daily Trust papers. And right at the front page, we can see the video of some buildings burnt down and some vehicles, bike burnt down and all that, and people stranded as well. 2023, tricky storms before Atiku. What's the tricky storms and what's actually really happening? You can get the full details on page 17 of the Daily Trust papers. Our gunman cut off my wrist, says 25-year-old mechanic. Also on the inside of the Daily Trust papers, doctor says to federal government, pay our salary arrears and training fund. You can get that on page 11 of the Daily Trust papers. And lastly, I move to page 8. Zamfara trip, your claim mischievous. Presidency replies PDP. That'll be all on the Daily Trust papers.
All right, I'll take the national economy. World Bank seal $158 million deal for MSMEs. The story is on the front page. I can continue reading on the inside on page 5. Nigeria loses $1 billion to oil production deficit and more borrowing likely. The story is there. You can continue reading on page 4. And of course, NIMASA remits 37.7 billion naira into CRF on page 5. Elumelu seeks Africapitalism as catalyst for economic development. On page 5, you get to read that. And of course, on the side, we have the leader to watch, Isioma Oluwa, experienced professional at Prudential Zenith Life Insurance. And we also have pictures of the governor and some dignitaries on the front page there of the national economy. That'll be all.
On this, Nigeria, Serap sues Buhari, others over missing 3.1 billion naira in finance ministry. That can be found on page 10 of this Nigeria. First subsidy controversy as stakeholders question Nigeria's daily fuel consumption. That can be found on page 12 of this Nigeria. And this is as regards 2023 presidency, North's game plan. Why Buni is courting Atiku, other opposition figures, and plot to sponsor surrogate presidential aspirant. South moves to truncate plan. You can get all of that on page 4 of this Nigerian papers. Why Wike should run for president, says Yesufu. Leader League of Patriotic Lawyers also tips Buhari, also tips Saraki. That can be found on page 5 of this Nigerian papers as JAM shift 2022 UTME to May 6. Can get the full details on page 5 of these Nigerian papers. 11 killed in overnight attack in Zago Kataf community. That can be found on page 6 of this Nigerian papers.
All right, I'll take the Nigerian pilot. Blame yourselves and the riders to that. Catholic Secretariat says Nigerians inflicted pains on themselves with previous errors. As Nigerians to shun politicians who play religious and ethnic politics in 2023. Insist errors of previous election circle plunged Nigeria into serious pains. That it's time to wise up, correct mistakes of the past that caused our experience now. All of this you get on page 8 of the Nigerian pilot. Serap sues Buhari, others over missing 3.1 billion naira in finance ministry. Where did he go? To swallow is it under swallowed this time? All right, NDLEA arrests 3 trans-border traffickers with 48,000 tabs of tramadol. Page 5 of that you might want to read up. Afenifere Southwest back Southeast for 2023 presidency. On page 8, you get to read the story. Buhari can travel by road without prior arrangement, which says that you find out on page 6. Oni imposes night to dawn curfew in Ife over criminal activities. You get to read on page 5. Bayelsa government to commission over 20 projects next month. You read on page 8. 5 Kogi Poly lecturers among 100 outstanding African scientists for 2022. Congratulations to them. You can read up on page 8. Gunmen kill 10 in Kaduna, raise buildings. Page 5, the story is there. And at the very bottom, which happens to be the last one on the front page, don't compromise drug war. Marua charges new NDLE officers. This you can read up on page 9 of the Nigerian Pilot.
All right, moving on to Daily Champion. I think I've been the one taking all the Daily Times, Daily
Don't
Trust,
worry,
and
I'll
Daily
take another
Times.
daily after this one.
But
Let me share your daily.
Okay, this is from the Daily Champion 2023. Zone presidency to South East. Igbo group tax APC PDP. My presidency solution to Biafra problems, says Oaboa. You can get that on page 29 of the Daily Champions. And this is still Serap suing Buhari over missing 3.1 billion. Court to hear suit against finance minister. Others on Monday over alleged contempt. That's on page 6 of the Daily Champions paper. Oshimbajo to Bosan NBA. It says, curb excesses of senior lawyers. Fish out corrupt members to face disciplinary committee. That can also be found on page 6. And NDLA arrests 3 trans-border traffickers with 48,000 tramadol tablets in Adamawa. Haha. Okay, that can be found on the inside of the Daily Champions, and this is on e-invoicing. Man seeks 90 days extension, expresses concern over guidelines. Get that on page 14 of the Daily Champion papers, and I think that'll be all on the Daily Champion papers. Okay, I think let me take this. NEM Insurance emerges champion newspaper 2021 insurance company of the year. And NEM says, we are delighted to have received such a distinctive compliment. It says it will amount to an exercise in futility for any meaningful inquiry to be conducted on business of insurance in Nigeria without devoting much energy, time, and spacing in discussing issues relating to NEM Insurance PLC, a company with a rich heritage faced in integrity. You can get the full details on page 16 of the Daily Champion papers.
So because I want to share your daily, I'll be taking the Daily Independent. PDP elders worry over IU's alleged subservience to governors. And the writer to that says, governors can't be anywhere with the hijack. Be patient with new NWC, Bode George pleads. This you can read up on page 4 of the Daily Independent. Anguish as motorists go through new Lagos roadworthiness certification. The writer to that said 27 inspection center service over 6 million cars. More centers coming before end of the second quarter of 2022, says the government. The stories that you can continue reading on page 4 as well. All right, still on page. All right, very boldly written there. Pardon. Fiscal indiscipline may worsen debt sustainability crisis. As analysts say, Nigerian risked foreign capital flow inversal. Yeah, it's on the inside of the paper. Bandits kill several burnt houses in fresh Niger attacks on page 7. Also on page 7, Serap sues Buhari over alleged missing 3.1 billion naira in finance ministry. And on page 2, NDLA intercepts 22 international passports hidden in bags of Gary. That's on page 2. Vandalization of Harry aircraft done by an insider, says DGNCAA. Also on page 2 of the Daily Independent. And of course, we have unveiling independent newspapers annual awards 2021. We have pictures of them on the front page of the paper.
All right. I think our time is fast spent. Let me briefly take some few ones from the News Direct. I think that's the last one. Yeah, self-employment. Dangote Cement empowers 245 youths in host communities on page 2 of the News Direct. And NIMASA, this on maritime safety, NIMASA increases conditional survey of flag registration by 43.6% in 2021 as federal government pays $194 million for Port Harcourt refineries, plans additional $98 million and 17.2 billion naira. Can get the full details on page 6 of the Nigerian News Direct. Data privacy law critical to drive digital economy agenda, says Pantami. And lastly, how skilled labor importation is contributing to unemployment, social unrest, says theft fund boss. Can get the full details on page 17 of the Nigerian News Direct.
All right, I'm just going to take a very big one on business day, just one. How are visa requirements for fraud in Nigeria? It's a must read on page 29 of the Business Day newspaper. And that'll be all on the newspaper review here on Lagoon Radio. Don't forget we are number 1 online gospel radio station, powered by the Diocese of Lagos Anglican Communion. Like and follow us on all our social media platforms. On Facebook is at Lagoon Radio Nigeria. On Instagram and Twitter is at Lagoonradio.Ng. My name is Taiwo Adiola Shapiolibe. And of course, Simidele Olabisi Oke. From both of us, we say good morning and
good morning and have a nice day.
Bye.
This is Lagoon Radio.